Yo, what's up guys, it's Iron J Moto, and today we are going to talk about if in 2023 and 2024 if it's still worth it to buy a Honda Grom. So let's get on the road and we'll talk about it a little bit. I'm just gonna kind of freestyle this conversation. It's just something that I've been thinking about a little bit in my head, so I figured I'd do a video on it. So the first thing, it's a great learning bike. So if you're new to riding or you want to get into riding and you want to learn how to ride, this is a really great platform. It's a small bike, it's very lightweight, it'll help you understand the clutch and shifting. I have the second gen, which is a 2020 Honda Grom, and it's also a great learning platform for learning how to do stunts. I originally got my Grom wanting to try to learn how to do like wheelies and stuff. Never put enough seat time to actually get it. I could definitely pop the Grom up all the time. I've just never got into balance point. When I was getting comfortable getting into balance point, I actually looped out, and ever since then I've kind of been scared. But if you are wanting to learn how to do some stunts, this is always a great platform to learn on as well. Another good reason is the third generation, the newer Honda Groms, actually have 5 gears. Having that 5th gear will help you almost gain a little bit of speed. I think you get a little bit of increased top speed. You'll probably save a little bit on the fuel economy. You won't be as high in the revs, or high in the RPMs, I should say. So that's a pretty cool feature for the newer Honda Groms, is having that 5th gear. I will say, having this generation Grom, it is still a beast, and it's like bulletproof. I'm always running it pretty much at like 9,000–10,000 RPM, always redlining it, and I've never had any issues with this. I know people with the first gen Honda Grom that are still out pushing around with no problems. The Honda Grom platform, or the motor if anything, is like such a bulletproof motor. I feel like if you ask anybody who owns a Honda Grom, they will tell you that they like beat the out of it and they never have any issues. I mean, I'm not saying that you won't ever have any issues, but these bikes can definitely take a beating. If you go down or you break something, the replacement parts and aftermarket parts are fairly inexpensive for this bike. And on the topic of aftermarket parts, that is another great thing of owning a Honda Grom and how it's still worth it, because the aftermarket support for a Honda Grom is unbelievable. There's so much you can do to these bikes to make it yours. You could do a fully stunted out Grom, you could lower them and stretch the rear, you can, every part you can think of, the customization for the Honda Grom is insane. Not only aesthetically, but also performance wise. There's so much you could do to these bikes, like a big bore kit, intake, a tuner, all that stuff is all readily available for these bikes. Another thing is they hold their value. I actually bought my Honda Grom like 2 or 3 years ago or something. I got it brand new with like 0 miles out of the dealer, just because it seemed like for the price that everybody was charging to get one used was almost the same as just going to the dealer and grabbing one off the showroom floor. I have this as a second bike in the garage, so I plan on keeping it. But let's say you decide to sell your Honda Grom, you can actually get a pretty good value for it, as long as you take good care of it. Although I've seen some beat the Groms on Facebook Marketplace that are still asking for like $25–$3,000. Crazy thing is, I've been seeing earlier years with like 10,000 miles or so, and they still want like 3,000. I have a 2020 and I've only rode this thing 2,773 miles. I wonder how much I can get for my Grom, but I am not gonna sell it. I've thought about it because I don't ride it as often as I want to. My boy Freddie always tells me not to sell it. Luckily that they got Grom clones, but they have minis nonetheless, so I am actually riding a lot more because we'll all go ride around on our minis around town, so that's cool. I will say the Groms are a lot more fun when you have a lot of other friends who have Groms as well. Another good thing about this bike, or owning this bike, is the culture is so strong, man. In every city, if you're on Instagram or any social media, you can find mini moto meetups where they could ride. You could like meet up with people where everybody's on minis and meet friends and have a good time. So owning one of these, you become a part of this awesome, cool culture of people who love these bikes and get out and being a part of the community. Now they might be a small bike, but they can get up to speeds pretty quick. And if you ride them moderately, although I always ride this thing in the high RPMs, but you do get some pretty decent gas mileage on these bikes. You could fill this thing up for $3.50, $4 and just have a good time. It would make for a perfect commuter if you live in a little small town, or I don't even know, maybe even around cities. It is a smaller bike, so getting a large exhaust on it, again, speaking of the aftermarket part availability, people will hear you. You can rev it up, so make sure that, you know, people are aware of you. This bike is a really good commuter bike. I enjoy it. Because of its small size and limited speed, you can get bored of riding around where you're from. You can easily pack these things in a car and go somewhere else to get a new riding experience. Recently, Freddie has a Toyota Tacoma, and we fit 3 Groms in the back of his truck. We drove about an hour away to Captain Anna's place where she lives, and we were able to ride the streets where she's from. And that's a 1 hour ride in a car versus a Grom locally where we can't even be on the highway. Would definitely be a long ride. He also put the Grom on the back of his Toyota Tacoma, and they actually went on a road trip and they were able to ride their Groms on the tail of the Dragon, which was super cool. It's also easy to store this bike. It's so small, where if you didn't have a garage, I live in Florida, luckily I pay extra for a garage space, but if I didn't have a garage and I owned this Grom, I would definitely put it in my crib. You know, just like roll it into the apartment or wherever I live. Another cool thing is you can actually ride 2 up on these, go explore around and have a good time around town. Switch it up from just riding around in a car. But yeah, that's just a few things off the top of my head why I think this is still a great bike to get in the upcoming years. We're in 2023, coming into 2024, and I still think there's a place for these bikes. I'm not saying it's the best bike, I'm not saying it's the worst bike, I'm just saying that if this bike makes sense for what you're gonna do, it's a second bike, you wanna learn how to ride, you wanna learn how to stunt, or you want a second bike just to have fun running around town or hanging out with your friends who also have Groms, this is a great bike. I think it'll continue to be a great bike as the years come, even past 2024. It's a super fun bike. People love it. When you're on the streets and people see you riding around this thing, it spreads joy and people think it's cool and it's super fun, and I love it. Do you guys own a Grom? Comment below and let me know why you love your Grom, or if there's anything I missed of why these bikes are awesome. Let us know. Just riding around and freestyling this video, I think that's kind of my thoughts on why I think that this bike is just an awesome bike and will continue to be. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Thanks for riding around with me on my Grom. And if you guys aren't already, make sure you follow me on Instagram at IronJMoto. Like this video, subscribe to my channel. Until next time, guys, peace.